If you have a passion, number one, you're going to find a way to make that passion turn into dollars. Why do you want to be successful? Find that why first. And once you find that why, it's going to help you take yourself to that next level because now you're mission driven. I went from scraping pennies, power turned off, not sure what to eat. My kids now were eating sardines. They didn't know what was going on, obviously. A couple weeks later, I had a 6-figure check in my pockets.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today we have a very special guest. Today we have Christian Miguel, one of the top realtors in all of New Jersey. Some of his accolades I could read off for you. He's a top 1% realtor in New Jersey, / brokerage owner. He sold several multi-million-dollar homes. He actually won Rookie of the Year in his first year. And he's a broker owner of X Real Estate. Christian Miguel, thank you for joining us today.
Wow, Anthony, that's quite the introduction. I appreciate that, brother.
All right, so
Thanks for setting this up.
Of course, man, of course. Thank you for having us and for joining us, and thank you for the opportunity.
Of course.
All right, so we're going to get started with some of your background, some of your upcoming, some of how you started in the industry. What made you ultimately want to join the industry? Because it's a very lucrative industry, lots of competition, lots of opportunities as well. So I'm going to get started with your background. And what started you, what inspired you to start your own brokerage?
So just to rewind, I come from a finance background. And I worked in finance for about 8 years. I did really well there, very successful there. I enjoy what I did. And one thing that I noticed when I was working with my clients is I would tell them what my passions were. And I don't even know why I did this, but it was subconscious. And I would say, my true passions are finance and real estate. And I would find myself saying finance and real estate. And I thought to myself, why do I keep saying finance and real estate? And I felt like I conquered the finance world by doing very well there. And ultimately, they had offered me a really high promotion. Beautiful promotion, but that promotion would entail me being there for the rest of my life. You have to build a book of business. Once you build that book of business, you're going to want to stay there the rest of your life. And I had that pivotal moment where I said, do I want to stay in finance or do I want to follow my true passion, which is real estate? And I took the leap of faith. It was really hard leaving a guaranteed job, guaranteed salary with health benefits to jump into what is the unknown. But fortunately, I was able to take the skill sets that I had in finance and use that in real estate. And that's kind of where everything started. That's where this baby was born.
I see that as very inspiring. So I'm a young college student myself.
Okay.
I'm studying business administration at the University of Seton Hall. So just hearing that story, that you had a great paying job, you were doing great, you were striving in your certain industry, and then you decided to take that risk. And I just see that's what business is all about. In businesses, you have to take risks. You have to be able to make moves. You can't stay stagnant. You have to be able to chase that risk and ultimately just chase what you love.
That's really it. If you have a passion, number one, you're going to find a way to make that passion turn into dollars. And you just hit the nail on the head. You got to take risk. In life, if you're not taking risk, that's the biggest risk you're taking by not taking a risk. You really need to take risk in life. You can't be afraid of failing, because if you fail, all that is your first attempt at learning. That's really it's your first attempt at learning. All the greatest, they've all had setbacks, they've all had failures. And that's actually what takes you and gives you the energy to really strive and get to the next level.
It must have been a very scary moment for you. Just think that you have a great career, you have a family to support, you're a father, you're a husband. Just taking that risk, taking that leap. It must have been a scary moment. How was it when you first started? When you first decided, you handed in your paper, withdrawing from the company, give your whatever it was 2-week notice. I'm moving on. I'm gonna chase my dream. I'm gonna do what I want to do. How was that? Like that feeling and that was it scary? How did you first start off, in the industry, in the real estate market? How did you I want to know about the outcomes. I want to know about the good. I want to know about the bad. I want to know about what kept you going during those moments as well.
Yeah. So we could talk about the bad for 2 hours, but so
This is about
that's there, right? So essentially, what happened was when I handed in my 2 weeks notice, my hand was shaking, and I recall that moment where I asked for the manager and the assistant manager to come into my office. I had a beautiful corner office with beautiful windows overlooking South Street in Morristown. So, I invited them over to my office and I said, hey, I thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate the fact that they selected me for this grand promotion, but it wasn't my dream. So I handed them the 2 week notice. All of my colleagues said that I was dumb, I was stupid, that I was making the biggest mistake in my life. Hearing that just added more pressure. That just added instilled more fear in me. And I was like, you know what? Am I making the mistake? Am I making a bad mistake? Is this a bad move? Am I that crazy to really think to leave the secure job to jump into real estate, which is the unknown? But I left, and ironically, when I left, I didn't leave to become a realtor. I left for real estate. But what I wanted to do was be a real estate developer and flip homes. So I started flipping homes. And obviously, when you're flipping a home, you're not going to get paid until the day you sell your home, the home.
Yep.
So I took every single penny that I had, withdrew funds from every single account. I purchased this home. I made a ton of mistakes when I was flipping this home. And nobody taught me how to flip a house. Obviously, in life, what you want to do is you want to learn from other people's mistakes. I didn't know that yet, or I didn't know who to follow to make sure I didn't make those mistakes. So I made a ton of mistakes, but you learn from those mistakes. So my first flip, it was enduring, it was tough. I didn't see a paycheck for 7 months. So it was really challenging because I went 7 months without a paycheck. Worked to the point where I'm like, how am I gonna pay for food? It got that bad. Crazy enough, I'm gonna tell you how rock bottom it got. The power company came and turned off my power.
Wow.
And I had kids. So I'm like, I cannot have my kids and no power. I went on YouTube and I learned how to turn the power back on. They said, danger, don't do this. You could get electrocuted and die. I'm like, screw it. My children need heat this weekend. So I turned the power back on. 3 weeks later, that property that I was working on, I actually sold it and I walked away with a 6-figure check. So I went from scraping pennies, power turned off, not sure what to eat. My kids now were eating sardines. They didn't know what was going on, obviously. And then a couple weeks later, I had a 6-figure check in my pockets. And then that's where I started to see the light. And it just started to progress from there.
Huh. So moving on from there, basically, as a young man myself, trying to find my way, trying to grow in whatever industry I prefer, pursuing business. What's like the biggest lesson that you learned, or you learned from someone, advice wise, that you could pass on to a younger person as myself, or all the younger people in the world, or anyone listening to this?
So, honestly, number one, you want to find your passion. There's no real secret formula. I wish I could just say, hey, do this and you're going to be successful. It's a few different calibers that you need all working simultaneously to get you to that next level. So most people look for like that get rich scheme, real quick, and it doesn't really work that way. So number one is you want to find your why. Why do you want to be successful? Find that why first. And once you find that why, it's going to help you take yourself to that next level because now you're mission driven. You're not just saying, hey, I want to have money for no reason. I just want to have money. You're like, I want to have money because this is my why. This is my goal. And that's going to help you get to that level. Once you discover what your why is, you need to discover what is your passion. What are you good at? You need to, and it's okay to explore different things because nobody knows what they're good at. I was in finance for 10 years and I was good at it, but then I just transitioned into real estate and I realized I'm greater in real estate than I am in finance. So, it's okay to experience a couple of different things. And then, a lot of people say you need to be motivated. You need to be motivated, but you know what? Motivation runs out. And we all know that. So it's not really motivation. You need to be disciplined. Disciplined is what gets you to accomplish your why and your purpose. So, don't be scared to just follow your passion. And the other thing is, aside from the why and all that, is the little steps. Most successful people do not become successful overnight. It's the small actions that you do every single day that start compounding. And those compounding actions, by the time you actually see it, it's going to make you successful.
All right, Christian, moving on from that, a lot of people in this generation, a lot of younger people, they're finding it very difficult to be able to buy their first home, be able to buy their first property, their dream home. It's very unpredictable market right now. A lot of people are having a very difficult time with this. So, how would you describe the current real estate market in New Jersey currently?
I mean, honestly, you just hit the nail on the head. It's not appealing. It really isn't. There's so much demand in New Jersey. I mean, across the country, but especially in New Jersey, it's not easy. And honestly, it does pain me because I work with first time home buyers. And I remember myself when I was a first time home buyer, my experience. And my advice to them is number one, save as much money as you can. Save as much as you can. And then be flexible. And what I mean by being flexible is because sometimes when I'm working with buyers, they want to buy their dream home. And they walk into the property, they're like, you know what, I don't like the kitchen, I don't like the bathroom. I'm not really feeling the paint colors. So I tell them is this, be flexible, have an open mindset. And if you're looking at a property and you're okay with the floor plan, that's what counts the most. You can always upgrade a bathroom, you can always upgrade a kitchen. What I tell my clients is this, you know what is the ideal home? You want to buy grandma's house. Grandma's house is a house that has pink tiles in the bathroom, blue tiles, blue carpeting, ugly colors on the wall. But you know what?
Don't forget the couch and free couch.
But you know what? Grandma took care of the house. Grandma has the assets to take care of the house. When you walk in, you're gonna feel like you walked into a time machine. It's 1980. But you know what? That's the ideal home because everybody wants to just come in and bring their bag and the toothbrush and the furniture and move in and do nothing. But you want to put a little sweat equity. You want to find that home that needs a little bit of love. You personalize it, make it the style that you want it. Now you have what's called sweat equity. When you bought the house, you didn't have to go into a huge bidding war like you do with most other homes. So, my suggestion for first time home buyers is save as much money as you can and be flexible and have a vision on what the potential of the house is.
Okay. You mentioned something in there. You remember going through that stage when you were buying your first house. I want to know how the times have changed when you bought your first house and how old you were when you bought your first house and just how like the time changed from that area in your life to now. Yeah. How drastically it changed.
So I bought my first house and I closed on it on my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
So I started looking for a house when I was 20 years old and I was clueless. But I will say one thing that did motivate me a bit was that my older brother bought a house like a year before. He's 7 years older than I am. But I'm like, my brother can buy a house, I can buy a house. So I'm like, so I started looking for a house. I called a realtor. I don't even think Zillow didn't even exist. The internet barely exists. We're talking about like 2002.
Yes.
So that was a long time ago.
The year I was born.
Yeah, there you
A
go.
lot of people were talking about the wine buying their first drink when they first turned 21. Christian right here buys his first house when he turns 21. So
But funny you say that the person that sold me the house was a police officer.
oh wow.
And he wanted to leave as a gift because he thought he was a nice guy, and he buys me non-alcoholic champagne, and he says, I didn't think you were old enough, so just to be safe, I bought you non-alcoholic champagne. So it's a funny story, but fortunately I hired a realtor that was able to guide me because I was 20 years old. The internet barely existed. I didn't know how to do my research. And I kind of let the realtor and the lender at that time kind of guide me through the process. And fortunately, everything went well. I remember my mortgage was 6.5%, which is pretty similar to what rates are right now. The price of that house was much lower, though. It was $150,000. My mortgage payment was $1,200. And at first, I thought that was a lot of money. But, speaking of how the payments are now for first-time home buyers, that was nothing. So it was quite the experience. I love real estate, and I love I feel like everybody should have the right to own a home.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. Moving on to the next question, I want to know like what factors, in your opinion, or just in general, are causing the increase in home prices and the increase in certain rates as well.
So, two different things there. So let's talk about the increase in home prices. So honestly, it just boils down to the most basic equation of supply and demand. There's just greater demand versus the supply. The reason that there's such demand is number one, we have a huge population in New Jersey. Worldwide, of course, nationwide, but talking about more macro, more micro of New Jersey, we have 9.5 million residents in New Jersey, and a lot of people that have bought homes about 4 years ago or even before that refinance, they're all sitting on a beautiful 3% mortgage rates. Those people do not want to sell their home to buy another home that has a 7% or 6.5% mortgage rate. It just doesn't make logical sense. So there's a lot of tied up inventory right now. And a lot of people, they don't even want to be in their home. They've outgrown their home, but they don't want to make that massive change. So what I've experienced lately is most clients that call me that I've helped them buy their home, they're calling me now and saying, hey, Christian, we want to buy a larger house. What traditionally would happen in the past is they would sell their house and then upgrade to a larger house. That's not the case anymore. Since these people have this fixed low interest rate mortgage and a very low mortgage payment, instead of selling their house, they're becoming landlords. They're renting out their house. They're cash flowing, $1,500 a month, and they're using that to subsidize their new mortgage payments. So it's really just a lack of demand. And then regarding a lack of supply, and regarding the interest rates, that's a whole other subject. That has to do with inflation. We had the highest inflation that we've experienced, and not necessarily the history. We've had higher inflation in the 70s, but in the last 3 decades, we're having the highest inflation. So the way that you combat these high inflations is that you want to slow down the economy. How do you slow down the economy? You raise interest rates, the Fed funds rates. That increases the rates for borrowing, not just for real estate, but for home loans, for credit cards, for businesses. So that puts a strain on the economy, and the Fed purposely did this. They want to slow down the economy. They want unemployment to go up. I know this sounds adverse, but they want all these negative factors to come in. Once that happens, that decreases the inflation. Once the inflation is decreased, they could start, reducing the interest rates. So it's kind of works on the adverse sides.
Okay. I want to go back to what you were saying before. In such a competitive market, so a statistic that I brought up is the sale to this ratio is 101.1% as of 2024. So, what strategy would you give to buyers in such a competitive market? Is there so much competition going on? Like it's so hard to buy it with the ratio being so high as well. So, what advice would you give those people?
So that's right. You did your homework. So 101.1% is the sale to list price ratio in the state of New Jersey. However, state of New Jersey, I really feel like New Jersey is too New Jersey. A lot of people say this.
Yeah.
You have the top half, your North New Jersey, and the bottom half where people say pork roll, Taylor ham, egg and cheese. Which one is it, right? So we're Taylor ham up in the north. We're very competitive. So although, the 101.1, that's encompassing all of New Jersey, but South Jersey, they're much slower. So, Morris County, Essex County, Bergen County, Hudson County, that's where the demand is. And the list to sale price ratio is more than 105%. And for the hot homes, they sell up to 10% more. And a hot home is a house that has the beautiful colors, the beautiful quartz countertops, the shiny things, and that look really good. Those homes sell for, up to 10% more. So this is kind of circling back to what I said before. Be flexible. Save money, have as much money as you can, be flexible, come in with an open mindset. Your first home is not going to be your forever home, but you're going to use that property and you're going to leverage it because in the future, 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you're going to take whatever equity you've grown from there and you're going to take that over to your next property. And then you can just repeat the process, rinse and repeat until ultimately you're in that dream home that you actually want.
What's the biggest common mistake that some of these sellers are making or some of these buyers are making? What's the biggest mistake that these people are making that they could try to learn off of, from your perspective as well?
So buyers, again, sometimes they don't have an open mind and, they want everything to be perfect and they pull themselves out of the market because they're not finding the ideal home. And eventually what they do is they just drag on the process. By dragging on the process, what's happening? Prices are going up. So, sometimes there's somebody who's been looking for a home since 2022 and they're like, yeah, I can't find the right home. We start again in 2023. Guess what? Prices are up 20% now. And then they're still looking and they're like, yeah, I can't find the right home. Let's look in 2024. Guess what? Prices went up 6% now. So the price keeps going up and you still didn't find the right home because you're being a little too exclusive with what your thoughts are on the home. And then with sellers is, and this is why you hire a realtor. You hire a realtor because they take the emotions out of the equation. A seller gets very emotional with their home when they're selling it. And sometimes the emotions get the best of them. And sometimes they're not agreeable with certain things that they should be with because, they just want to sell their home And ultimately, the realtor, what we do is we take the emotions out of the equation. We're hired to get you to the closing table, get you the best amount of money that we can for your home, get negotiate the best terms for you. So, they just sometimes need to let go of some control, take the emotions out of it, and let the realtor manage the transaction without emotion involved and just using straight data and analytics to ultimately get them the best sale price and the best terms.
All right. So moving on from that, I got the opportunity to dive into your resume, see some of your transactions, and you sold plenty of multi-million dollar homes. So I just want to give you the question. So, like, how did you step into the luxury market of homes in New Jersey?
Yeah, so a lot of realtors say, "Hey, I want to be a luxury agent. I want to be a luxury agent," right? And honestly, that's something that we all want to do because those checks they're beautiful, right? So when I worked in finance, I worked with your average clientele per se. And then I was promoted and I worked in the division where I only worked with affluent clients. So what I did there is I learned about banking. And then once I learned about banking and all the ins and outs in finance, I was able to use that with my more affluent clients. When I walked into real estate, I said, I'm going to do the same thing I did over there. I'm going to rinse and repeat. I'm going to learn the ins and outs of real estate. I'm going to learn every single thing I need to do from A to Z within real estate. Once I get that packed down, then I'm going to go ahead and target that luxury market. And, my first year in the industry, I was awarded Rookie of the Year. Second year in the industry, I was the number 2 agent in my office, and we had 80 realtors. So I was like, I'm there. I'm ready. So I was cold calling what's called expireds. And an expired listing is a listing that was on the market with a different realtor. They couldn't sell it in their time frame. So I was calling a bunch of homes. I had a list of like 100 people, and it was listed by numerical value. So I'm calling this list, and everything's like 300,000, 350, 400,000. I'm making the dials. Some people are answering, some people aren't answering. And then I said, you know what? I'm ready. And I went to the bottom of the list, and the highest dollar amount was $3.1 million. And I was like, I'm calling this one. So I called, the person answered. I did my spiel. They agreed to an appointment, and I had a listing appointment with them a couple of days later. And what I did was I acted as if. I was like, Christian, you had to act as if. And what I mean by that is like, act as if you're the better realtor. Act as if you're a luxury agent. Act as if they need me. They need me to sell their home. So I came in with that mindset of like, I am the man. This is what I need to do. They need me. I belong here because, at first I felt like I don't belong here. It was in Short Hills. I never walked into a $3 million home. When I went on the tour, I got lost. It was an 8,000 square foot house. So it's like, hey, we're good. So it's, like, I felt like I didn't belong, but it's like psychologically, I just had to tell myself, like, I belong here. This is where I was supposed to be. And the seller of the home, it was a husband and wife that was going through a divorce. He was a professional hockey player for the Devils. And I could tell that, obviously she wanted somebody that was going to sell their home. So during the appointment, I showed her and told her what I'm going to do to market the home and to ultimately get her to the closing table. But when I was talking to her, I was able to read her face. And what I mean by that is I could tell that she had pain. And the reason is because she essentially wanted to close this chapter of her life. I could tell there was some pain there and get to her next chapter. So I decided, you know what? I already talked about the marketing. Let me just speak to her as a human. And let me just go down to her and just give her that confidence. Make sure that she knows that I'm going to do everything in my power to help her close this chapter in her life and get her to the next stage in her life. And once I was able to convey that to her, as I saw a smile on her face. And when I saw that she had that smile on her face, I knew I won her over.
Yep.
So, and then we started from there.
All right, Christian. After you saw the shift in her mood, going from very upset to just the full shift of being happy, like you got the listing, did you make the sale?
That's a good question. So I did. I did make the sale. And this is pre-COVID. So there was the demand that we were seeing today was not there. And this is again a $3 million house. So it's not like the properties that at that point were $300,000, $400,000. You put it on the MLS and you were going to sell it in a couple of days. This is something that you really, really had to work at. This is where your real, true marketing skills come into play. So I did everything I could in my power. So I hired the Michael Jordan of the media companies to come and do the media for this house. We did sponsored ads on Facebook, social media. I would call Jets players, football players, Giants players, Devils players. I wouldn't really get in contact with them, but certain people within the organization for me to provide and promote this property. I was in the process of setting up a charity event in that house as well and inviting people that are affluent from the area. So, I was trying to get really creative on what to do to maximize the exposure of this home. And ultimately, do you want to know what sold this home?
What was it?
So in this digital age that, I do all this social media stuff and all this online advertisements and retargeting ads, what sold this house was a $1 postcard.
Wow.
I sent a postcard to 200 of the nearest neighbors.
So postcards are still effective. In this generation, with all the marketing tools, a postcard got the deal done.
It really did. I couldn't believe it. So I sent a postcard to the 200 nearest neighbors. I said, you know what? If they live in this neighborhood, chances are they love it. And what greater opportunity for somebody in the neighborhood to choose their next neighbor? So I figured they might have a brother, sister, father, or cousin that wants to move into the area. That's exactly what happened. So somebody that lives like 10 houses down, their sister-in-law was looking to move into the area. He tells her, hey, this house just came on the market. These are the details. They contacted me and I sold them the property. And I did what's called double ending in the real estate world, which means you're representing the seller, you're representing the buyer. A little bit different back then with how commissions checks worked. But the beautiful part was that I was able to oversee both parties. So my commission, I received the full commission check on that one.
If you don't mind me asking, Christian, how big was that check? If you don't mind me asking myself, says how big was that check? So I know you ain't good at this.
So I celebrated with my wife and we went out to a nice steak restaurant. I ordered the Wagyu and a couple other things. So that check was for over $120,000. Yeah, that was my biggest check and the smile on my face. And it wasn't just because, it was a large check, but it was the work, the ethic, everything I did to get there. And then from there it was just like a domino effect and I was able to retain myself and I still work with luxury clients.
All right, Christian, how do you see the New Jersey market changing over the next, let's say, 5, 10 years?
So, you know, we're in a very dense state of Jersey. As again, I said before, we have 9.5 million is our population. And during 2020, we had an excess of 4%. The next following years, we lost about 0.5% of our population moving to other states. And then last year, we had an increase of about 1.5%. So the demand in New Jersey is great. If you notice, and you probably have, when you're driving around the road, you don't see many single family homes being built anymore. What you see more often now is apartment buildings. And it's just because we're so scarce with our land that developers don't see the logic in just building a single family home. They're taking advantage of the 3 acres. Instead of building 3 homes in 3 acres, they're building 50-unit apartment buildings or condo buildings. So I feel like we're going to transition more into these apartment buildings than these single family homes. One thing that cities like or states like New Jersey that are a little more dense is states want to do something that's new that's called like smart cities. Have you heard about that concept?
No, I already know.
So and right now in Paramus, they just had this approved. And there's a mall there. It's called Garden State Plaza Mall. And what they're doing there is within the mall area, they're building 500 units. And they want to make that into like a little city. So they want you to be able to live there, walk to the mall to do your shopping, walk to the restaurant. There's going to be a green area for, recreation area. And that's kind of like what I feel in these dense cities where the future is going. And I hear that California is doing this as well. and they want to have everything within 15-minute radius, meaning you live here, you work there, you eat here, you shop there, you dine there, you go to your doctor there. How do you get around? Trains. So, I feel like that's what's going to happen. Whether it's going to happen in 5 or 10 years or 15 or 20 years, I don't know exactly how long it's going to be. But I almost feel like with our density, we're going to have to get accustomed to living in more refined spaces. I may be wrong, but I feel like that's where kind of we're heading.
Okay. Do you think right now is a good time to buy or sell?
So it's when you're buying a house, you don't want to time the market, and you hear the same adage when it comes to the stock market. You can't. It's not about timing the market; it's about time in the market. Same thing goes with real estate. It's not about timing when to buy; it's about time that you had that property for. Because historically speaking, real estate prices just go north. In all history, prices have gone down 2 times: 1991 and 2008, our major financial crisis. Aside from that, real estate prices have gone up steadily, 3.7% every single year. So if you have a $500,000 house, the next year is worth a little over $515,000. The following year, same thing, but now it's 3% more, not of 500, of 515. So it just keeps going up and it keeps compounding, the beauty of compounding interest. Or compounding appreciation. So if you have the ability to buy a house, even though we're not in the most ideal market to buy a house just because it's so competitive, but if you had the ability to do so, do it. Buy a house. So when it comes to selling a house, people always need to sell their house. They're not selling a house just because they want to. They sell their house because there's need behind the reason. And those reasons are usually one of the 5 Ds. You have death, divorce, diapers, diamonds, and downsizing. So one of these reasons is going to cause you to want to sell your house. If the kids are out of the house and you're living in a 5,000 square foot house, you don't need that much space. Diamond, you get engaged, you need to buy a house together. Diapers, family's growing. Death, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And then divorce, sometimes you split up assets. So there's always a need on why you need to sell a house. And as long as you have the right person marketing your house, then, it's a good time.
And I know you're an investor yourself, so there's a lot of investors out here who are looking to buy a property, to say commercial property or a house or a two-family house, or like you were mentioning before. Do you think, what would be your advice towards them, or how do you think they could help determine if it's a good buy for them, honestly?
So the good thing is, and this is something I would recommend to any first-time home buyer. So typically, let's say I'm a homeowner. So if I were to go and buy a 3-family house, what is the bank going to demand from me? They're going to want to see 20% down, if not even 25% down, to purchase this home because they know it's an investment property. So any first-time home buyer, what I tell them to do is use your first-time home buyer mortgage, which means you don't need to put 20% down. You can buy a 2, 3, 4-family home with as little as 3.5% to 5% down. So utilize that for your first home. So you move into your first home. Let's say it's a $500,000 house. It's a multi-family. You rent out one unit. You live in one unit. You have your rent being paid, your mortgage being paid by the rent on the other side. Once you're ready to move out, you should wait 2 years. You buy your next home. You can do it again with another multi-family or buy your single-family home now. But now when you buy that single-family home, again, you're only required to put 3.5% to 5% down. You don't have to put that 20 or 25% down. So my advice to anybody that's looking to get into the investment side of it is come in as a first-time home buyer and take advantage of that low down payment that you're offered as a first-time home buyer.
All right, Christian, I see the shirt, X Realty. So I just want to talk about how you got the name, first of all, and how you guys are growing over time and some of your future goals.
So funny you asked me how I got the name. It was actually one of the hardest things I could do. I'm wanting to make something that's kind of more of a blanket statement, nothing personalized to me, because my goal is to, build the company, and I don't want other agents to feel like they're under Christian Woodgall's umbrella. So I wanted something that was, kind of neutral, and just thinking and thinking and thinking. One day I got the letter X in my head, and I was like, you know what? I think I like this. To me, the letter X means like futuristic, innovative, technology based. In Roman numerals, X means 10. So I'm like, my company's in 10. So I like that. X marks the spot. If you're a client or a realtor, X marks the spot. That's where you belong. That's where you should be at. Yes. And then the one final thing, I was like, wow, I'm choosing it. This is going to be it. So I give her the phrase like Christmas, but spelled Xmas.
Yes, yeah.
You know what that means?
What does it mean?
Christ.
Okay.
So X also means Christ. So I felt like if I could have the Lord's blessing with my brokerage, I'm good to go. So that's once I realized that part right there, that was my definite yes.
And what are some of your future goals with HRT? So I know you're growing at a rapid pace. So what's some of your future goals, and how do you see HRT growing over time?
So again, we're really high on technology, and we're 100% base brokerage. So at first, I didn't want to have a slower start, and that was by design. And the reason was I just want to perfect everything before really growing and expanding a lot. And we've gotten to that place where we're really ready to expand and take it to the next level. So we've had agents joining our industry or brokerage, and they're very happy here. And now it's really time for the extension.
Okay. How do you feel? I'm in school right now myself. So like I said, I studied business administration. And the biggest thing right now, you'll hear all over the news, AI is one of the biggest things that they're even teaching it in school now. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's actually it's a great tool. So how do you see, you mentioned technology as well. So how do you see technology being incorporated into your everyday life and in your industry as well?
Yeah. So as of now, 2025, I love AI. I don't know what's going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Okay, for it.
It really is. Like, who knows where it's gonna go. But right now, for the time being, I feel like we need to implement AI to take us to the next level. And make us more efficient, help us help our clients better. So right now, I currently do use AI, and it's made me more efficient. I used it for helping clients actually find homes. There's these tools that with AI that can kind of predict who may be selling a house. So I utilize these tools to kind of predict who may be selling a house. I utilize these tools to perfect listing descriptions, and just different correspondence, creating addendums for my clients. Something where I would have to sit down in a computer for 30 minutes, now I can do it in 30 seconds. So it's definitely made me more efficient, which makes my role for my clients much greater because I could do more work for them. And with technology, I sold homes with 3D tours. So I have something that's called a Matterport that I use. Not sure if you've heard of it. So I sold a house like this. It's a special camera that you video a home with, and people can walk through the home through their laptop or phone. It's almost like the Barbie doll version of it, and you can walk through, you walk into the closet, walk into each bedroom, and you can have a really good grasp of what the home is like without even being footed. So I sold the home to a client that was in Georgia, wanting to move to New Jersey, didn't have the time. He used my 3D Matterport system to really secure that he liked the home. He made an offer. Offer was accepted. As soon as the offer was accepted, he flew over. He loved the home, and then we were to sell the house that way. So technology really is gonna change the games. We change the industry, and the thing is, we had to evolve and adapt and implement it, because if not, we're gonna be dinosaurs, and we're gonna be taken out by somebody like yourself, who's a young man that knows how to use the technology and can better assist their clients with this. So you had to implement it.
Exactly. Crazy that you bring it up because yesterday in my digital marketing class, the professor brought this up, stating, I don't know if you've seen those goggles, like the Meta goggle, or Apple goggles. They were just saying how far they could really take it. Like once you put on those goggles, and just like you could be, let's say, I could be interviewing you. I could be sitting right here. You could be sitting right there, and we're not in the same place. And when you put that goggles on, I'm basically have the same perspective. I'm looking at you, and you're looking at me. Once you put that goggles off, so it's crazy. It's just crazy that you brought that up as well. So it's just crazy how far this could really go as well.
It is. And again, I like it right now because it is really helping us, service our clients better. But 20 years from now, who knows what's going to happen. I did ask AI, and I said, are realtors safe from AI as far as, taking their jobs away? And it said, yes. realtors are safe because clients want that face-to-face interaction, that need conversation, and they want that hand holding that AI cannot provide.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like that's still important as well. Just be able to provide that for your clients, be able to provide, put on that white glove and like, I'm here for you. I'm gonna be able to do the dirty work. AI can't do some of these things that we can't do. They don't have the emotions that we have. So it's just basically a bigger picture of how we're still different from AI and robot or everything. Going on. So I saw that you mentioned it before. Your name's Christian, and I see that you're a Christian as well. So how has faith been in your life, and how has it impacted your success in anything that you do? Honestly,
So, faith, I've always been a Christian, but I do feel like over the last couple of years, my faith has grown. And the reason is because sometimes humans just don't know what to do, how to react, how to act, how to do certain things, how to live their life. If you buy your car, what does your car come with? A manual, right? Every car comes with a manual. You buy a laptop, it comes with the manual. You buy a phone, it comes with the manual. Humans, we need a manual. And we have one. It's called the Bible. The Bible is our manual. The Bible tells us what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat, how to be fathers, how to be husbands, how to be a neighbor, how to be a good person, how to build wealth. There's a lot of scriptures in the Bible about building wealth. God is not opposed to you building wealth. He wants you to because he wants you to provide for your family. You just cannot let greed take in the way. So, being able to follow the Bible and at the same time be able to not fear of what could potentially happen because there's a lot of risks that you have to take in business. Opening up a brokerage, buying certain investment properties. If you take on a listing, you're investing a lot of time, money and energy, not knowing that you're going to get paid because you're only paid if you're successful at the transaction. So the most common phrase in the Bible is "Do not be afraid." So sometimes if I'm walking into something, I'm a little skeptical, I remind myself, the Bible says, do not be afraid. So, it's definitely helped me out.
yeah. So that's something I've been using in my life as well. For to say the past year, I've grown heavily in my faith as well, being Christian. So people ask like, "Oh, sometimes I don't hear Jesus talking to me. I don't hear God talking to me." So like when you're feeling a certain emotion, let's say you're feeling down or you're feeling happy, you open your Bible up and you read the words that he says, and he's talking to you in those Bible words or whatever. It's like a specific verse. He's speaking to you. So like the other day, like I was feeling a certain type of way. I closed my eyes, opened the Bible, put my finger on the Bible, and it spoke to me. It's beautiful. It's honestly beautiful. So having that in your life, just knowing that you have that you're following something in your life, that you're following me personally, I'm following Jesus Christ. It just gives you the extra emotion, like to not be afraid and just how to be able to live your life as well, and be able to inspire others as well. So as long as I see the God's words, be able to inspire others and be able to spread the gospel as well. So just incorporating in my life, and I see you doing it as well, and you're doing great as well. You're inspiring others, you're inspiring people like me as well. So it's great that you incorporated it.
That's beautiful.
All right, Christian. What was ultimately the main reason why you decided to start up your brokerage?
So, honestly, it just kind of came out of the blue. So, I realized that a lot of times agents would call me asking me for advice. They've seen me as somebody influential within the industry where they would call me and say, "Hey, Christian, I've got this scenario. What do you think I should do?" And I would give them my advice, some tips on what they should do, and so forth. And I would get these phone calls pretty often from different agents within my sphere of influence. And I really enjoyed coaching and helping these agents. And many agents said to me the same thing. And that's what started to open up my mind about it. They said, you should either open up your own brokerage or become a coach. And I heard this constantly, become a coach or open your brokerage. Become a coach or open your brokerage. And just 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I love helping agents. And I want to help agents get to the next level in their career. Boutique firms are a little bit different from the big box firms. The big box firms, they charge an insane amount of fees. If you're getting a $10,000 check, they're going to take 30% of your check or so, 35, 30, 25, 40, even 50%. I personally don't feel any brokerage should have the ability to take that much from the agent, where the agent's doing all the work. They're getting the clients essentially. They're running the transaction. They're doing all the work. They're hitting the payments. Why should a brokerage get 30, 40, 50% of that money? I decide to come up with a brokerage where, number one, they're going to get top tier training, top tier coaching. I'm always available on the phone if they need me. And it's 100% brokerage with a small transaction fee. This way, the agent keeps the majority of their hard-earned money versus the broker owner.
Yeah. Basically, going on to my next question, how does that separate X Realty from like your competition? Because there's so many different competitors out there. So how does X Realty compare to others?
So, I'm going to compare myself to the big box stores. I like to call myself a sports car, like a Porsche 911. And the other brokerages, they're big box trucks, 18-wheelers. So what I mean by that is, if I have an agent or a client that has a suggestion or feedback on how we can make the brokerage better, or how we can help their lives better, or we should implement certain changes just to improve what we're currently doing, I, as the broker CEO, if it makes sense, I'm going to implement that change immediately. And by the end of the day, we're going to have that change for the clients if it makes sense, or for the agent if it makes sense, which is like a sports car. If something makes sense, you could switch lanes super fast. It's really quick to do that. Where the big box stores, if an agent or a client has feedback, they're not really going to listen. Or if they do, they have to run it up the ladder to the CEO who's sitting in an office in California. So if there's a change, it's probably never going to happen, or if it does, it's going to take months or years. And that is the big box truck on the highway that takes forever to switch lanes. Call me Porsche.
Okay. All right, Christian. For like someone like myself, what would be your advice to someone who's trying to start off their first investment property? And if you don't mind, can you share like one of like your biggest success rate for your first investment property?
Yeah, so when it comes to investments, there's two different avenues, or at least I like to see two, really, or two that I indulge in: fix and flip, and hold multi-unit families for rental cash flow. So if you're looking for a multi-family, is you want to make sure, number one, that it cash flows. Let me tell you what I look for when looking for a multi-family home. I look at the list price versus the rent price ratio. And I want to make sure that the rent is going to be able to cover the mortgage, the expenses, and has some cash flow left over. There's something that's called the 1% rule. So you typically want to have 1% of the list price be the rent price. So if a property is $400,000, you want to generate about $4,000 a month in rent. So that's your first rule of thumb. If it meets that criteria, then you can dig further and see if the property makes sense. I like to look in areas that are a little more like blue collar, to be honest with you, because blue collar workers, they're great people. All they're doing is just try to maximize their lives and do what's right for them and their families. They're great hard workers. They pay rent on time. You want to go to a city and see what kind of jobs are around the area. And again, it has to cash flow. So I like to look at properties that cash flow the bare minimum, $500 a month after all expenses. So what do you do with those $500? You just save it, honestly, for a rainy day. And that rainy day might be the one day that boiler breaks, or that roof needs to be replaced, and all that extra positive cash flow you had throughout the whole year, now you might have to spend it on some repairs. So you definitely want to keep that in a separate account for that property.
All right, so that's great. Can you give me your best flip and some of like the challenges that you face and some of like the best success that you found as well?
So I've done quite a few flips. My best flip was, and this is, I'm going to circle around. When I meet with a client, a seller, potential client, I walk into their home and I give them suggestions and advice on what to do to their home to prepare it for the market, to ultimately yield them the best number for their property. I don't like to give them too much homework because nobody wants to go through all that stress. I know there are some agents that recommend that they upgrade their bathrooms or their kitchens or and so forth. I don't do that. All I tell them to do is declutter, do some curb appeal, and the number one ROI, return on your investment thing, is paint the home. When you paint a home, it just shows a whole new light. And the best flip ever was a property that all I did was paint it. I bought a house, Walton Way in Hopatcon. And then this was right before the pandemic, or right as the pandemic was starting. So I purchased this home. All I did was have my crew go in there, remove all the garbage that was left behind from the previous owners, paint the entire place. I had a cleaning company come, deep clean the whole place, and it was ready to be marketed again. So I successfully flipped it, sold it, made about $50,000. The beautiful part is not that I made $50,000. The beautiful part is that all I did was paint the house. And it solidified my thoughts on the fact that paint really does change the aspect of the home.
Something that you said in there, he said your crew. How important is building a relationship in the aspect of networking for you, and just how important is it in general, like people in business? How important you think that is as well?
Very important. So it's going to be sound cliche, but your net worth is your network. So you definitely want to network with right people. Having the right crew, especially when you're on anything that you're doing, you need to have a team, because you cannot just be one sole person that can handle everything. So you need to vet your team, have a great team that needs to understand exactly what you need from them, and they understand what you need from them, and they need from you, and then you have that good relationship. It's really pivotal, because as I told you in my first fix and flip, I didn't have that crew. I didn't have that team. I didn't have all these strategies that I currently have today. So that's why I made a lot of failures in my beginning days, where now it's kind of like a well-oiled grease machine. Like anything that I need done, my crew already knows what I need. I tell them, hey, we got a project. And they're like, all right, the same as usual. And, they know what I mean by that. So we keep it consistent. I had the same paint colors I always use. I had the same flooring I always use. Pretty much the same vanities.
Florida, as Christian.
Yeah, if it's working, why not? And sometimes you can get a better deal in bulk. And if I have a leftover material, it just goes in my garage.
Yeah. So, what's like the best, like the top three, like characteristic that you think is the most important, like when you're looking for, like, let's say a teammate or like someone that you could trust? Like, what's like the best three characteristic?
I mean, well, you just hit the number one, trust. Without trust, there's just really nothing. So you need to be able to trust them, because sometimes you are handling some of your funds. You need to trust that if it's a contractor, that when you give them the deposit, they're going to be there that day to start working and not run off to another project. You need to make sure that they have good quality workmanship. And how do you discover that? Either by you try them out or get references. And, third would be is their timing. You want to make sure that they are going to withhold your expectation with them. If you say, hey, I need you to finish this project in 6 weeks, you need to ensure that they are going to finish that project in 6 weeks. If you say, hey, my budget for this renovation is X dollar amount, they need to stay within that budget. And honestly, you can vet them all you need to and all you want, but ultimately you don't really find out until you start working with them. But, once they see that you know what you're doing and they want to stay on your team or remain on your team, they're going to do what's right for you.
Yeah. So, how is it, like, I know, like, you've been in this industry for a long time, so like this must have been like some people who don't have those qualities that you can't really trust. So how has that been, like, dealing with some of those people that don't have those qualities that you can't really trust, and some of those people that you could trust? Like, how is, like, the difference, like, drastic?
Oh, it's a huge difference. So it's really, are you going to walk away with this profit or are you going to lose money?
Yeah.
So your contractor, they're the glue to the project, honestly. And if you're dealing with somebody that's not trustworthy or that can't get the job done, you're going to have what's called carrying costs on this property. You're not only buying these properties in cash, you're getting sometimes very high interest rate mortgages because they're short term, and they add up. Plus you're paying the property taxes, the heating costs, the utilities. So every day that house is being worked on, your expenses are going up. So it's really pivotal, because honestly, a good contractor versus a bad contractor can make you money or lose you money.
All right, Christian. So you gave me a lot of great advice, a lot of wise words, and to people listening. So when it's all said and done, what legacy do you plan on leaving behind in the real estate aspect?
So when I opened my brokerage, I came here to disturb the industry. And what I mean disturb is be able to provide the best of both worlds to agents and to clients. And it's number one, give our clients the white glove service, give our clients the luxury experience, even if it's not a luxury dollar amount, and do everything we can for our agents by providing the best training, the best coaching, the best mentorship, while they keep the majority of their paycheck. So my goal is that this brokerage can help our agents further, and maybe other brokerages could follow a similar path, and they stop charging their agents 20, 30, 40, 50%. So that is something that I want to do with this industry, change it, disrupt it, and make it better for everybody involved. Because although it looks easy, being a realtor, it's a really challenging job. We wear 100 hats a day, honestly, from everything that we do. So that's what I want to do. I want to disrupt it.
And how can someone get in contact with you?
So you go to my website, christiansalesnj.com. You could also go to the brokerage website, xrealtycorp.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Christian_Rugel_realtor.
Christian, this was a pleasure.
My guy.
This was a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for the wise words that people are listening. So, thank you very much.
Appreciate that. You're great with the questions, and let's do this again.
Got to, man. Come on.